the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week.
Hey, this is James Madison, and this is Business Story of the Week.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is James Madison. And of course, I am your host, Joshua. And today's question is it possible to achieve success without the hustle? And
Uh,
what does that look like? Well,
uh,
James is the perfect man to answer that question today. James Madison is a CEO, speaker, trainer, and coach at On Purpose Life. He helps successful senior leaders leave burnout and overwhelm behind to lead winning teams in the achievement of extraordinary results. Well, today James is going to share that secret with us. James, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm very excited about this one.
Me too, Joshua. Thank you. I appreciate having the time to chat with you.
All right, fantastic. Well, James, before we really get into it, I want to know, what was the young James like? What would the young James think about the James right now? Did the young James always Was the young James always a hustler? Or
Mm,
was the young James did the young James always think that you would be a trainer for senior executives?
I tell you, so it starts with the lie that young James believed. Young
Hmm.
James believed the lie that he wasn't good enough at a young
Oh,
age. And that caused him to what I call create a lot of prove energy everywhere in life to
oh,
prove, which was successful in terms of accomplishment and external
right.
success, proving things until it was no longer successful and it resulted in that burnout, that hustle, that grit. And again, nobody ever told me I wasn't good enough. That was my own lying belief to myself that I had formed at a young age. And so that's really what I worked against, not so much external things, but myself.
That is it, isn't it, James? It's really us holding ourselves back because, again, we're not taught to tell that to ourselves, but somehow we grow up thinking,
Yeah.
this is not, I'm not enough. I love how you call it the
Mm,
prove energy because it seems that we run on prove energy constantly. That's why we
yeah.
try to do all these things because we find value externally. We feel like these things, the hustle, of course, has been romanticized to the point
Yes.
where it's the only thing that gives us value. Like hustle of depleting to the point of depleting yourself, but that's what gives you value. But we're running out. We're running out, James, constantly every day. Of course, tell us a little bit about your story and what led you through this journey. I understand that you have experience in the military, of course, and I'd love our audience and listeners to know that as well. How did your military experience shape your approach to leadership? And later on, of course, I feel like hand in hand, does that go with purpose?
Yeah. So my father was in the military, so I'm an Army brat. So I spent my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
kind of around the military. The last
Oh,
thing I wanted to do after college was go into the military, but I did. So it just was so
oh,
enticing in college to be part of
okay.
ROTC. So I was commissioned and went into the Army right after college myself.
Wow. Okay. So, James, right after college, you went into the army.
Yeah.
How long were you in there? Were you ever deployed?
Yeah, I was deployed. I was in for 4 years and I was deployed in Operation Desert Storm back
Oh,
in the Iraq Saudi Arabia war years ago.
oh,
So
wow.
that's where I
Okay.
was. I was stationed in Germany, but that's where I spent my first tour of duty.
Wow. Okay. James, how did this experience shape your approach to leadership and purpose? Does
Yeah.
that go hand in hand, by the way? Leadership and purpose. Does that always go
Yeah,
hand in
in the
hand?
military, the thing I learned in the military was all about having a specific mission and a purpose and playing that role fully out. And we always needed to
Absolutely.
understand, again, think about being down there in the desert. We needed to understand what our purpose and mission was as a unit and know that others to the sides of us would play theirs out. And together we work together as a team for success. And so that carries over directly into business when it comes to teams and getting things done in operations and leadership.
Did you ever feel like did you ever struggle with the transition, so to speak? I mean, I understand that you were in there for you were deployed, you were in the army for 4 years. There's always that struggle to, I feel, to transition from that lifestyle onto the civilian life. How did you deal with that once you were back in the civilian world?
Yeah, I didn't struggle, but I worked through like a recruiter, Cameron Brooks, that junior military officers understand how to translate their experience and their skills to corporate America. So I had kind of had a
Okay,
guide that helped me. And then
interesting.
what I tell people is I was in the army, but the army was not me. So I
Oh,
was still the same person inside. I love teams and
of course.
camaraderie and achieving goals, just like when I
I love
played
that.
basketball. So that just happened to allow me to excel in the military, but it wasn't who I was. And so when I got to my first job, it was about teams and goals and getting things done. And on the worst day in the plant that I was in,
Oh,
did not even compare to an average day of challenges in the military. So for me, it felt easy.
oh wow, wow, that is interesting. You need to talk to us a little bit about that. What was that like that first day? And like you said, it was harder than any day in the military. What was that like?
Yeah, yeah. So I was in a plant that made pet food, and it was a team-based environment, and I loved all things teams. So I just
Oh,
fell into love with meeting the people, understanding the process. What I had learned in the
uh-huh.
military is regardless of the position I was in, my job was to support the soldiers doing their task, right? And
Mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm,
it directly applied when I went to work in the pet food plant because I didn't know how to make dog or cat food, but I could provide the support and leadership, encouragement, resources to get things done. So that was a direct copy and paste and a
mm.
big part of my success.
Wow. Okay. Of course, again, a lot of those skills were easily carrying through into real
Yes.
life and corporate America, like you said as well. Now you're applying it there. You're teaching it to them. James, talk to us a little bit about in purpose on purpose, and this is
Yeah.
something that again is a message that you teach. Is a message that you talk about constantly. Break this down for us, because what would
Okay.
be the key impact that you would love readers or audience and listeners you would love to take them to take from
Yeah.
this?
When I transitioned out of the corporate world, I read a book called The Purpose Driven Life,
Mm-hmm,
and I read a book called What Color is Your Parachute?
mm-hmm,
And they all essentially helped you understand with beginning with purpose in mind, what knowing your purpose, knowing what you bring to the table is the place
mm-hmm,
to start. Really be
mm-hmm,
confident in that. And what I
mm-hmm,
learned in my own process is that when I knew my purpose, all the things that I was meant to create, all the resources, time, money, whatever needed to do that would just
mm-hmm.
show up in my life and chase after me. That's that all flow, no
Excellent.
hustle.
I love
Because
that.
I
I love
knew
that.
exactly what I was here for and I knew the things that did not align. Most important thing is to be able to say no to the things that don't align. And most of us say no to too many good things and then we don't leave room for the great things. That's
Yeah.
that why living in purpose,
Uh-huh.
intentionally on purpose is so.
It's so important because intentionally, I feel like, I mean, I think that's a key word, right? Uh, intentionally isn't something that we practice every day. We feel like, okay, I have purpose, I do it.
Yeah.
I have a role, so to speak,
Yes.
in my family. I have a role in work, but I feel like the intention that comes behind it is something that we don't really live constantly. And I think, uh, and I think that's very key. James, could you give us a few tips or a few key insights? How do we do this intentionally? How do I live my life in purpose, on purpose, intentionally, so I could have a more fulfilling career or fulfilling life?
Yeah, there are really three fundamental steps, I call them,
Mhm,
to living in purpose, on purpose. The first step is to really know who you are, the
mhm.
truth about who you are, not the lies that you believed.
Of course, of
Because when you
course.
believe the lies like I did, not good enough, it didn't matter what I did. It didn't change how I felt about it
Mhm,
because it was never enough, right? So it's get clear
mhm,
on strengths, passions, talents, all the resources, all the things that you've been given to steward while you're here. So get really clear on that. The second
mhm.
step is to know your purpose. My purpose is
Yeah.
ignite purposeful growth. Every single thing I do comes from that why. Many people will mistakenly call what they do their purpose. I'm a father, I'm a teacher, I'm a whatever. That's what they do. That isn't why they do it. And so that's a key distinction, is to understand why at the center of everything you choose to do.
I love that. But I love that
Yeah.
you put first who. I think that's the most
Who?
important.
Yeah.
That's the first one. I think that's the most important aspect because the who isn't like who you are, what your job is, your occupation. I don't. That's not what it is. Who is like
No.
who you really are. Like who are
The
you?
essence.
Essence. You strip everything away. You strip away your career, strip away your business, your experience, strip away the military. Who is
That's right.
James Madison? Who is Joshua?
That's right.
Who are you as the audience and listeners out there? You should be asking that question because I feel once you get the answer to that question, everything starts flowing. Because then, whenever you start losing your direction or maybe
Right.
having swaying from your purpose, you always go back, wait, who am I? Right? And then
Right.
slowly, why am I doing all these other things? And it just
That's
flows.
exactly
I
it.
love that.
And what I love to say, Dasha, when you know who you are and you know why you do everything you do with purpose,
Mhm.
then everything you do has greater impact on the
That is
world.
true. That is
And
true.
when you know
That's
why
it.
you do what you do, you don't lose your way. You don't get lost. It becomes like this
Yeah,
true north kind of
I
navigation
love
system.
that.
And
I
then
love
the
that.
last step is to have a vision. And vision
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's exactly the destination that you want to create, but the
Right.
direction based on who you are, why you do what you do, a direction, and then utilize that as kind of a GPS to navigate, filter out things that aren't for you, and also see things through a lens that are for you. And that's the key, is the decisions that you make.
That's it. I love that because I love that you use North Star. That's always the nice reference. You lose your way, then just go back to that North Star. But you said great impact. I don't think you'll have really good impact because unless you know who you are, because you know exactly what you're giving back to the world. Because
Absolutely.
it's one thing to do things, but knowing that who you are, and that value you put in there, I think you truly give more impact. Um, James, if if living on purpose was a basketball game, let's call it. If living on purpose was a basketball, and I want to be on purpose the entire time, what would be a key play or a key strategy that I must constantly be aware of so I could play the game fully on purpose?
Yeah, what I would say is, regardless of what the external environment is happening, regardless of the
Mm-hmm.
other players on the team, the noise,
Mm-hmm.
the score, is to stay internally focused and connected to who you are and that purpose
That's
and the vision. That's the
I
key.
love
And then
that.
you know what it's like when you
What
get in
is that?
range for the 3-pointer, you could close your eyes and it's nothing but net. Nothing but net,
Yes, let's
right? Just
go.
fall
Let's
away
go.
jumpers happen when you focus
Mm-hmm.
on inside and see with your
Mm-hmm.
mind's eye the ball going in. Doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
about anybody else around you.
That's true. I love that you connected it back to vision because you want to see that, you want to see that vision. You want to see that ball, that goal, reaching that goal constantly. I think
Yeah.
uh, I love that you connect that all the time because those three things are important. They connect to each other, who you are and why. And the vision, I think, is what most of us miss as well.
Yes.
We figure out the two parts, but we never get to that third part. The vision is so important because I feel like, again, it may be a direction that might change, but at least you have a direction. But how deep does vision go, James? And how do we begin to even start creating a vision for ourselves?
Yeah. What I call it casting a vision, and
Mm-hmm.
what the way I think about it is, think about a time horizon that's important, 5 years, 7 years, and then close your
Mm-hmm.
eyes and think about, what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you around? What kind of job are you doing? What kind of car? Like, literally visualize with your mind's eye, because
Mm-hmm.
when you visualize with your mind's eye first, then your mind can do nothing but go and create what you have already seen. It's
I
almost
love
like
that.
it's on autopilot to create that, but you need to see a picture of it to move in the right direction. It may change, but it moves you in the direction, and then you
Exactly.
can steer and navigate with that compass of who you are.
I love that. And again, look back to your North Star that maybe, hey, was this my vision? Is this part of my vision? I feel
That's right.
it's visualizing so underrated,
It's
right?
visualize. Yeah.
It's just it's so underrated. Whenever we talk about it and they're like, hey, do you visualize or do you this vision? People don't like what does that do? It's like daydreaming. But really it's I feel like again, we connect it back to intention. I feel like if
Yeah.
you put intention into it, I think that's when it really becomes like a vision, so to speak, not just daydreaming. James, of
It
course,
really does.
one of the message that you talk about is you create a life of all flow, no hustle. This is probably my favorite center theme of your message. This is something that's very, very important. Again, if you have your purpose, you don't get burnt out. But hustle has been romanticized to a point that this is all the value that we get. All flow, no hustle. Talk to us about that. How can we live a life of all flow, no hustle?
Yeah, it's not natural because we're all taught to hustle, flow,
Yeah.
grind, grit. And I've learned that your success will kill you when that's the strategy. Like it literally will
Wow.
kill you physically,
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally, relationally. But when you let go of that and understand,
Hmm.
even if you could do something, should you do it based on who you are, your true identity is, and then shift and pivot into doing the things that line up who you are,
Hmm.
then there's more joy, there's more fulfillment, there's more significance than short-term success. And then it's just much more. Somebody said today on a call, much more juicy. It's a much more
Yeah.
juicy experience that they have. And
Love
that
that.
is
Yeah.
that fills you up instead of take away from you. That's the flow.
That's it. It's juicy. It's a juicy flow.
Juicy. Yeah,
Dude,
juicy
can't believe
flow.
I just said that. But hey, like again, it's just, I think the flow state right there is very important, right? Because
Yeah,
it's again, we all try to achieve that. We all, I don't think there's a single person alive, individual alive in the world where they say, I don't want to achieve a flow state. I don't want to learn to get. I feel like it's a state that we want to be constantly in. It's like in the zone, right? But
right.
in the zone in those little moments is one thing, but having a flow state in an overall for an overall better well-being, I think
Yeah,
is the more difficult part, and we try constantly to achieve that through hustle. And again, like you said, it will literally kill you.
literally.
It's come to a point where we don't even take care of ourselves.
Yes.
James, what does a all flow life look like? If we're constantly flowing, what does that look like? Because we want to strive to achieve that. We want to be able to envision a flow state life. What does that look like?
Yeah, one thing it does not look like everything is easy and simple. So I just want to be clear. It doesn't mean
That's it.
everything clears up, but it means
Love that.
it's more effortless in the decisions that you make towards the
Mhm.
things that you want to create because they are
Mhm.
intentional based on who you are. That's the difference. And so
That's it.
you come in and out of flow states. When I say all flow, you come in and out of it. And when you find that you're out of it, it's easy to diagnose which part of me is out of alignment. Let me get back into alignment and get back into flow. So it's a
Uh,
continual loop of connecting and checking in.
and connecting and checking in and always say like, okay, am I in the flow? Okay, like it's almost like a meditation practice, right?
Yes.
You meditate, then you lose your vision. I mean, you lose your focus, you lose the
Yes.
sight of your breath, you get lost in one of those thoughts. Uh, I think it's important to say that even if you get lost in one of those thoughts, it's fine. Just pull yourself back, right?
Just come back.
Same,
Yeah.
just come back in the flow, come
Yeah.
back into the flow, come back into your life, realign constantly. I love that because now, like you said, we have a compass, we have a direction, we have a
Absolutely.
why to walk that. We have the who as a compass, a why on how to walk that, so to speak, and a vision, a direction of where to go. And of course, James, I love the message. That's why I was so extremely excited for this one. But of course, the website, James, where is it? Where can we find you? Of course, the website, by the way, for our audience and listeners, onpurpose-life.com. James, where can we find your book? Where else can we get to know you? Where can we connect?
Yeah, you can find me at on LinkedIn at James F. Madison.
Mhm.
Also, my email is james at onpurposelife-com, which is the
Mhm.
same as my website, onpurposelife-com. and there's an opportunity to reach out to me and let me know what's going on.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, James is quite the straight up message, clear message, flow message, so to speak. No, 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 nothing, nothing that. What do you call this? No frills. There you go. No frills.
That's
Just a
right.
clear message to say that who you are, why, and what is your vision to get into a
That's it.
flow state. And don't get don't get lost in all that hustle and bustle. Let's
Let
keep
go of it.
let's go of it. Let go of it
Yeah.
because let's keep overall well-being. You can be successful without killing yourself in the process.
Yes, you can.
Absolutely,
It's more joyful
absolutely.
too.
It's more fun too. It's more fun for you and for
Yeah.
fun for everyone else around you. No one wants to see a guy who's just constantly like unhappy with what they do and just losing their way constantly every day. It's not a great sight, and you won't be
Mm-mm.
happy seeing yourself in the mirror either.
Exactly.
James, one last bit of wisdom to leave behind
Yes.
our audience and listeners. What would it be? Take us home.
Yeah. The biggest wisdom is it is possible. No matter what you see, no matter what's going on, we bought into the lie that it wasn't possible. But here's
Mhm,
the wisdom:
mhm.
whatever you focus on expands in the world. So if you focus on believing you can have a created life, you will. If you
Mhm.
believe life will happen to you, that will happen as well. So it's your choice. It's not about external things, it's about what you set your mind to create, and you can make it happen.
I love that. It is your choice. Set your mind, and anything is possible.
That's right.
Of course, the website is On Purpose Life. Again, onpurpose-life.com. Go check out James. Go send him a connection request on LinkedIn. I did send you just a connection on LinkedIn. Let's get in touch, James. And thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Josh. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. And to all the audience and listeners out there, thank you for watching the episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you take away some value and some purpose from it. And we will see you on the next one. Bye bye.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.